This is Chariot.
Hello, from this is Chariot TV. And we are live, streaming live on Facebook. We are also streaming on YouTube as well. And to say, I feel no joining in. I am Akwaba Eba Chariot TV Straight Talk. So, Diana Jonathan Mensa Bunsu. Now, him say for some time now. As far back as 2024, we have been looking at the book of Daniel and visions. Daniel Humano and a DE, and some. And no one some Anna Yesha Sinebetiate. Extensively, we have done 29 episodes. We come one at the 30th episode just today, trying to summarize and tie the loose end and dot all the I's and cross the T's. So that a bit me have a full picture of what the book of Daniel is all about. So that Michelle been crying, Bomodin, so kind with Homana, Bomodin, kind Homan. Just get your own hard copy book, Bible like this one. Like I have here, a hardbound. Get one. I mean, get scatter number P. Into the power scatter Bible. When you're bonnet, and I want to use so get one. Get a good translation, like something like NKJV or KJV, which you can really have hang on. So about bit my can't see and follow us. Read the text with us. Any kind Bible no. So the also bit me at Daniel Homana Sena Abuawo. We have done 29 episodes so far. First 2 episodes was an introductory matter, and we started delving into the chapter by chapter. And could do the 12th chapter, which is 12 chapters in the book, and we have extensively dealt with all of them. So one share video Libya but I don't know. We are going to summarize and let me go through essentially some of the things that we have done, and I'll let Bashadak and so Abba in. My friend Mansa. Bashadak, Kwaba.
Yeah, Joe.
Now, Pume.
I didn't know back a crack credit and said, me junk me, but I know there.
Sana Merena Neban,
but you can Yakobama da Roma.
Yeah, and then I could pass it. We have done essentially from chapter 1 to chapter 12 of the book of Daniel, looking at details of every text. Verse B will be an essentially ya kind, ya choma So let me run through essentially the entire chapters, some bit by bit. Then we come and zero in on the chapters by themselves and deal with them as it is. So say you call back to chapter 1. Chapter 1 talks about Daniel captivity. Ever saw move to Babylon. So when you read chapter 1, that's the idea where they wanted to change their language. They changed their language. They were changing their culture. They were also trying to change their religion. They gave them names and things. It's found in chapter 1. So chapter 1 set a backdrop of how they ended up in Babylon. That is what is in chapter 1. Chapter 2, we see the first record of Nebuchadnezzar's first dream. So the first dream that was recorded was in chapter 2, but it was Nebuchadnezzar and his son there. Remember an image, a good nefa, it was that image with different metals embedded in there. That is found in chapter 2, where Daniel explained that they represent kingdoms. Do chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar himself set up a golden image in the plains of Dura, where Afi or commander yesterday be our betty a bang be any one more region when you be bow that image. That is found in Daniel chapter 3, where Daniel's friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not bow, and in effect they were thrown in the fierce furnace. But Nyankopon Ediwan Fufi, Nyankopon Yiwon if you and that is found in chapter 3. We go to chapter 4. Then we see the second recorded vision of Nebuchadnezzar. So chapter 4 has Nebuchadnezzar's second vision. This time around, it was a tree. There's a watcher that was saying that they should cut it down, chop it off, leave the stumps in there, and interpretation by say Emma Daniel Chirasi in the text that is a judgment against Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar and switching Ebano. So you should be willing to receive it, and those things happen in chapter 4. And it was in chapter 4 and Nebuchadnezzar so far a melody called Boantropy. So if you remember, you go back to our videos and you realize we talked extensively about it, but it's all in chapter 4. Chapter 5, we see the end of the Babylonian Empire, where the last sitting king, Belshazzar, that's his name, Belshazzar. Belteshazzar is Daniel, but this Belshazzar was the last reigning monarch, and sana the Babylonian Empire, no, but no, so if you read the text, you realize that Belshazzar is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. The grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, and it was her and you who never and send Nangopon a China song by Medes and the Persians, Darius and Cyrus a Kaboom. Na omutimi be true Babylonian Empire eguye and ended that extensively for the Babylonian Empire, and the Medes and the Persians took over. In chapter 6, Anna Yekai, you see Darius reign, Darius reign, where people conspired against Daniel, and in fact Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. Daniel lion's den story is found in Daniel chapter 6. That account is found there. In chapter 7 of the book of Daniel, we see the first year of Belshazzar. Keep at the back of your mind, say the books are not chronological. So the first year of reign of Belshazzar is found in Daniel 7. That's and in chapter 7, Daniel recalls a vision he himself saw. On first, other two visions, they are visions that Nebuchadnezzar saw. But the first recorded vision that Daniel himself saw was in Daniel chapter 7, where he dreamt of beast, a more if you by a more tibia, and the interpretation Daniel Nyaye or the Mayan. So it's the same as the interpretation that came in chapter 2, which represented kingdoms. So Daniel 2, it was an image, but the interpretation was kingdom. But in chapter 7, you see different things, imagery, to connote the same idea, the same different kingdoms that will reign. And in chapter 8, he took those two of the kingdoms. That was, I think, the third year reign of Belshazzar. But those two beasts, Anna Daniel discussed extensively. In other words, two kingdoms are discussed extensively. How the Medes and the Persians will lose power to the Grecian Empire. So those two beasts are being discussed there in chapter 8 extensively to show us who will take charge, and only who Alexander the Great, the he-goat, and all those things. They are found in chapter 7. But in chapter 8, you can say, the 7th weeks, where Daniel gives us a timeline of how things will go acquire to the death of Jesus Christ, how those things will happen for the kingdom to come. Daniel gave us a timeline, how to be able to handle these timelines and calculate these things. Chapter 10, that is chapter 9, but chapter 10 and 11 and even 12 discusses a heavenly being. Daniel who now only omudin trying to find interpretation and things of all those things. For things that not Daniel had trouble of, and his understanding of certain things that was given. Some of the things it was told that they are sealed for future. You shouldn't worry himself about it. And all those things are found in chapter 10, 11, and 12 thereof. And so that summarizes essentially the book of Daniel and what we have discussed. So Bashada, before we go to the chapters by chapters and pick up lessons and things that we have learned, tie them together, I want you to comment about again the arrangement of the book, so that maybe if someone's first time hearing us, you'll be able to know that the book of Daniel, chapter 1, chapter 2, and as it goes there, they are not in chronological order in that form.
Yeah, Joe Midase, I'm in Falcon, so I'm in chair or her for and for mobile chariot TV. So, yes, so they're all kind of even though there are some people who believe, say, in chronological order. No, what you gave is not what should be the chronological order. No, I think that those people become kind of odd. The odd is that, I mean, the odd start from where they think say the last 4 chapters, 11, 10, 12, and then 9, which is interesting. Say, but that is what people say. But Joe said, what kind of minim silver person men come chica crab in a measure. The coffee sans and same way they buy.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so that people will get the picture very clearly. And then they attend say Israel for a Yankopon mine. You free Egypt and although more about a year Canaan assassin. Now before Mbaba Canaan assassin, there were nations, not just one, nations. And what that small portion of land. You heard the land of Palestine. Joe, yeah, can was some now. America Krumha, more new America, no. A state, a friend of Connecticut, a very small state next to New York. As I say, no, Nicasian, state Nicasian, and it is the land of Palestine. It's a small land. It's on Yankopon ye Israel for no more bass assassin.
But that is the land of honey and American.
Exactly. Joe, for one purpose. It is Ayana the entire make Sansom when you say, Joe, Ubeka tie or so be I will go to the book of Daniel, the church and Nema Kakraka bimu. So what must say. Now, God brought the children of Israel to the land of Canaan for one purpose. And Joe, the purpose was say, Omodi Christo no ebeba. That was the whole purpose of it. Ade bi e ka ho bia no eye ntata ho keke. Na we no omukọ asase no so Joe. Omo asase no so na no ahemfo mbenya ahemfo. Omo ahemfo no na oman no mu koche. And ebenya the northern kingdom and ebenya the southern kingdom. But Joe, in Daniel in Genesis chapter 49 na enkom hye da ho say Yesu na ye bewo no obefri Judah busuanim. Now we check here back some Judah busuano then became the southern kingdom or the southern nation. And ebenya the 10 tribes no almost called the northern kingdom. Joe, usia there, what you are going to discover, and it said in somewhere 722 BC, and San about Christian, and on Yankopon the Assyrian kingdom, no, and your friend saying Nineveh for no. Omubabefa the northern kingdom no mo call nkwasum. So at must say eto omu call nkwasum no mu no. Ena Jeremiah kept warning these people, the southern kingdom say, someone touch am adwen a mo be kos te say de munua na mo northern hokoi. Na jom pesa no me kan kakra yenko Ezekiel chapter 23 no. Bese me bie enema bie ni su kire nkrofo ene. Ezekiel
23 say.
Ezekiel chapter 23 verse 10 no. Also saying. In fact, starting from verse Mr. starting from verse 1 neighbor mommy. Now
the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there are 2 women, the daughters of one mother. They committed whoredom in Egypt. They committed whoredom in their youth. They were their breasts pressed, and there they breached the teeth of their virginity.
80 Oyakopon say, "Ya o ma mienu bi. Sa ma mienu no mo Egypt. And omo kobo adwamanfo na omo bo adwaman brabo. Na sebi aha is so graphic say Joe never go ever skip.
Yeah, and you know say one denomination banned people. They used not to read Ezekiel chapter, Ezekiel 23 because they were thinking that it's so
graphic. So graphic. So Yankopon say e ma mienu e na omo do mo akowura adwaman semu. Na nam adwaman no mo boni nti no. Wo mo emema omo benya omo no ebe ma omo ho akire omo. Nanso sebi odo sebi aburu jimi odo no mate ahwemu nti no. You did not even see the omo odo fo no so all proud omo. To aso. But Joe, my background say Ezekiel same way I walk in. No Ezekiel no owo enkwasum no ochro you. What do I say? Yeah. I'm giving you a picture of a summary of the entire Daniel Alkodi Babylon. Sansa the same way you know. Now my one who the entire and never be asofo bi chira enye no kre na straight talk so yeah kan chiro. It Onyankopon say ma mienu and omu free Egypt. Na womu onu Onyankopon koyi womu ba no. Womu do omu abrabo aye adwama abrabo. In other words, it's more like Onyankopon ware sa ma mienu. But they don't give respect and reverence to Onyankopon na o ware womu. In fact, Jeremiah 31 verse 31 say God was married to the children of Israel. I
say the names of them were Ahola, the elder, and Aholiba, her sister, and they were mine. And they bear sons and daughters. That's where their names. Samaria is Ahola, and Jerusalem is Aholiba.
80 Jeremiah can't say a mom you know. Yeah, Ahola no. Or no Samaria, Joe, you can't Samaria. I didn't want some near can. You can the capital city of the northern kingdom. So Samaria represent the northern kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And also
Jerusalem.
Ni sister Eddie Aholiba. Or no see Jerusalem. Jerusalem represent the southern kingdom. And also Joe, what happened?
And the Ahola played the harlot when he was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrian and her neighbors, which were clothed with blue, captains, rulers. All of them desired young men, all men riding upon horses.
Say, Sa Ahola, the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, no me any there. But omu kobo adwaman ne Assyria for the kobo adwaman. Omu hwe say the Assyria for soldiers si dress. So omu si ye omu ho. And omu the conquer door omu enya nkopon no. Wo omu gods na omu som no. Wo omu de call ye enema no omu som. Eti Onyankopon say okay, if that's what you guys are going to do, and they say akwa na mo pen dey amema na be fam akọ. Joe, at the end of the day, to cut a long story short, the northern kingdom was taken to Assyria. The expectation is that the southern kingdom, Jerusalem, and the Akoso Samaria for Nabrabuno. Yo, Kaga de no moye.
Almost actually,
Kaiso mu the up to the 10 tribes, One change your mindset. They did not. Yantuaso.
I see. And thus she committed her whoredom with them, and all of them that were choosing men of Assyria, and all on whom she doted. With verse 9, verse 9 is it. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hands of her lovers, into the hands of Assyrians, upon whom she doted. These discovered
That is why the northern kingdom was taken to Assyria. Joe, with time, no, Assyria as a kingdom, no, said the name whom kind, no, they should prepare to meet their God. And they're prepared to meet his wrath. Eti Assyria for no, and pack a bresso, you know. One yet Babylon for Ekoko capture with the help of the Medians. With the help of media for no, and a Babylon, any media for Cabo no two a year Assyria bino egui, and a Babylon be deviating in answer. What I say, 80 now, Babylon be deviating in answer. And also what happened? Joe the verse a year 11 no.
And when her sister Aholiba saw this, she was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she, and in her whoredom more than her sister in her whoredom.
She became more corrupt than Indian 10 tribes now. But then, no, Babylon 4 now, I take you over every. In the end, she became more corrupt. What did she do?
Verse 12. She doted upon the Assyrian her neighbors, captains and rulers clothed most gorgeously, horsemen riding upon horses, all of them desirable young men. Then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both one way, that she increased her whoredom, for when she saw men portrayed upon the wall, the image of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, gathered her girls upon the loins, exceeding in dyed attire upon her head, all of them princes to look to, after the manner of the Babylonian of Chaldeans, the land of their nativity.
One more the end there, and yet Assyria from Kwano Musho. They turned to the Babylonians. Time when Babylon for to take you over, they turned to them. They also copied them. Though the end results in the saying. The end results in the say. Then they are also going to go to Babylon. Verse 17.
Verse 17 will say, and Babylon came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredom, and she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them.
Okay, 80. The simple put to say, these Assyria for no, Babylon 4, I will take you over. The people still laughed about after or Munyankopon. Munyankopon was okay. Munyanum ye we said them ye or Munumba Sachram and Sachramo. And I'm say more turning to Babylon 4 no so as it's almost Abano. And yeah, the Babylon 4 na mopedia and a mokoko no Martina. So that is what we see in Daniel chapter 1, where Daniel talks about the days of Zedekiah. When you go for the farm, where then Babylon. Why do we normally say so? When you go for the reform, because Assyria for tried taking Jerusalem, no, they couldn't. What I say, God protected the city. 2 Kings chapter 18. No, when you go for protected the city, no, chapter 18, chapter 19, chapter 20, they ended up running away.
Well, rap shaky,
rap shaky. Any snacker by or moon team and take his city. Intia Banasena Nebuchadnezzar ne papa ni anu by they have been able to take the nation because God said they did not change. What must say? Daniel chapter 1 no, is telling us when they were brought into the land of Babylon. Joe, this is Aholiba, Jerusalem. It is Ninia Bano way. Ninia Bano way, they can't now conquer Sumudana. So they are the second.
So, yeah, okay. But what I say? So now you have given us a background. You have nailed us down to chapter 1, how the chapter 1 settings look like.
Exactly.
In chapter 1, What lessons can we learn from chapter 1?
The lessons, I'll pick about 3 or 4. One, and it say there is no sin. Obey unya consequences. What must say? Time one no more else my boss when you put 2 on 4, one such no. You could be on saying. And we're sent into captivity. So that's the first lesson. I want everybody to.
And I think I don't know whether my memory serves me right, but in Numbers 32, 23, 32 or 32, 23, or say your sin will find you out.
Exactly. Yes. Obonina Ebeyuama and Joe Deuteronomy.
Yes, it's Numbers 32, verse 23. Say, but if ye will not do so, behold, ye have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out.
Exactly. Bonibia so in so. On my say, Bonibia so in so. Joe 18, the chapter 1, no, it gives us that picture. Now, I want you to note something. I want you to note number 1. These people are coming. They have been brought from captivity into. They have been brought into captivity from Omukrum. But Joe, what was the purpose of Kroning? The whole purpose for their existing as a nation, because they were not a nation. God will even tell them, say, guys, you are not any special people. What must I say? You are the most, the minutest, your friends, a nation in the whole world. But me and me choose some, and my most special. For what purpose? Their purpose was to bring Christ. Joe, into the entire book of Daniel, is to tell us that even though you have been captured and brought to Babylon, even though there's going to be a time that God will still fulfill his purpose for which he chose you as a nation. What else am I saying? Going forward, no, the entire going forward, no. The entire book of Daniel is to bring back hope to these children of Israel for Babylon, and to let them know how Onyankopon navigate. What must I say? Go through different kinds of nations, different kings, different rulers, to the point of bringing Jesus Christ on earth. Why is this so important? Because there are a lot of people who think, say, Joe, and near what the book of Daniel are going to happen in the future. Whilst our book said they are happening, even at the time we write and no chron and kasano, the things were happening. It Joe said, why you careful? The first things I will see any been say, and near what Daniel woman, ebesi as they for chiribi Pentecostal senior charismatic for chiribi. It never be brave, a brain intimate conning in. But no, they make sure I say, if we teach you the original, if you get to know the original, can't fit it by obeying. The original thing is say the people have been brought to Babylon because of their sins. Lesson number 2, I do and it said, when sin captures you, it turns you to be his. Yeah,
I remember I listened to Iteo Semobia about sin, and one of his points was that sin makes you think that only a slave now you're master, but or that thou or Baba not my master now why a slave, but he makes you think that you will be the master, not a slave.
Exactly.
A good example is Romans 6. When Paul can say, Munim said, the modern woman said, and qua would no.
The same passage don't have him.
Sasso, the continue move, and our bonnet the cool woman. The more mutin man, that's Romans 6, verse 16. So send your canon true. Send the bar brabuma, not what for Sakwa. Why you what? But or ba onyamba or beka chiro mo say ono no ba be wakwa now why lura na the ka pesa we you can easily work out. Oh, don't worry, you can easily work out. Don't worry, you get to buy it when you want to get to buy, you get to buy. I mean, or better that also, but when he gets into you, we shall say so we are, then you become the servant. Oh no, a master.
I said no what can you 18 what you're going to see in Daniel chapter 1. Nebuchadnezzar and Crawford try so they will make Daniel and his people as I'm making say they will make them feel at home.
Yeah,
you feel at home. They saying, okay, Ezekiel assembly king kind a holiba and a Babylon or more Marco Babylon no. A holiba in Jerusalem for no. Na sa holy bafwe oba a holy ba ne man Israel fwe o say wo mo do mo akọ fam Babylon abosom ho e do Babylon mrantie agya onu Nyankopon no kofam free Egypt on by. That is why he's sending them to go there. What must some of you say Babylon for enyame na mbeson there, then go there. It in Daniel chapter 1 Joe one lesson we see is say Nebuchadnezzar catch him say mama almost say anuane we ni. What do I say? Monse sa omudin. Joe, are they not making them feel at home?
Yeah.
Open fie.
Yeah.
It will raw water na show no excuse me. Nekofa ompranta de no bi hye. Ko fridge no ompran nuane bi gom, kofa no bi di. So that is exactly what was happening. Say the sin is making you look more like him. One way I can say, me them check a crab, me booty, or started for France. I know I say everything is fine. Joe, wouldn't him say gradually we get to a point now, and sana one will isolate you from nipa unimono. It won't say now for 4 hours no age mate ni nyina no now what waba kokora now automatically you will free that group
no group no when you by force.
Yes, so you obi a also ye dwamanfo a yo adwaman no de do be yo say wan konyem o ye teenager na ye kana huntie a wan konyem ama anyi free single and enjoying mu am for uncle your friends a single mother. Obey you am uncle single mother. And I saw your bema so abon one. Joe, send no ano. Ebema wonya yade. Na isolate you from it said okay, a starting for fra. As a wow enjoy wo koba wo hrisia na TikTok you be on na wo yi niam agu abonten amangwisi obi amara mehwebi obi amafibi. Yo, when your time is up, it will isolate you. And that is what these people yaso mo konkosum. O ma bi atin asase so no omunko ade o makotena obi man so. All right. Lesson number
but answer about lesson number 3 no so no. I'm interested in we the kakra. Oka they are bonesi ni panel there no. It came to my mind a little poem I read some years ago. I think the poet was Edgar Guest, and I say Shakespeare, one of them I read. But as some kind of say we don't sin with a quick heart fall. You see, Bonin to say Ujina Clefos, who jump here and from no. Or see we don't sin with a quick heart fall, we glide along. I had to say climb planes, no banana will fall. You don't jump though. And the SR when you about hunt them, but you glide along. I say little by little. I say little by little, you cannot tell right from wrong. You see, say or any or pick one, now shift to them echo the other side that you might be able to recognize no makomonim and I say but my recognize that no, I'm in trouble. Let me find somewhere and hide. Or let me go back. You see, but of found and Jeffina untimi what is wrong, what is right, what is wrong, what is right. And that is also a graphic picture that is in Psalm 1:1. Psalm 1:1 or say Ishani bia ontena onyina aferi 14 bia.
Yes.
First of all, say onante
abonefo no akwanso.
First onante but the next on ose nyina aferi 14 Njone ne kwa
and the third one is ontena
good. So the idea
jina tena sana bonne started no nante kakra na fe no jina na mo bonkomo ana say ya bro ya jina ache ya bre na entena se.
Yes, that is the book of Psalm 1, and that picture is clear enough. And Daniel and his friends did well demonstrating their faith in there. And I think you quoted if you look back at the book of Ezekiel chapter 14 verse number 14 Daniel is mentioned there as someone Nyankopon really respecting him for the things that he did. But remember me Daniel, Moses, Job and Noah. No, 3 men.
Daniel, Job and Noah.
Also some remember me and say will be as here. Omo training omo buntino. Komo abeji omo they can't save the people there.
Yeah.
Daniel was that great.
Joe, to add to we answer my third lesson also no. Deuteronomy 29. This was something that was going to happen. Deuteronomy 29, the Bible tells us about how when you go on catching and crofone say, Omana me de mu komu no, asase no me de amamo, me shiramo. Se mo beye sutie ama mensem na mo di mahede so a, and no problem. Verse 14 it say, se mo anye sutie ama me de a, and sa so twin we, and ebeba moso. Joe, okay, also be too more from one so. And that's exactly what is happening. Say, Ombeko akosum abosum. In fact, he mentioned it in verse 16. Or say, for ye know, me read it from American Standard Version. For ye know how we dwelt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the midst of the nations through which ye passed. And ye have seen their abominations and their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were among them. Lest there should be among you man or a woman or a family or tribe whose heart turneth away this day from Jehovah our God to go to serve the gods of those nations. Lest there should be among those nations, there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. And it came to pass when he heard the words of the scarce, then he blessed himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. So the point is that God is going to destroy you. If you do that, you'll be destroyed. Joe, lesson 3, answer the move from the chapter. And it said, if you fall into sin, if sin take captive of you, sorry. Daniel and his folks and the friends, Joe realize that Omobone, not Daniel no as a person, Omani in our bonnet, and I lead you into captivity. But they did not allow Ashiasena or Marshia could do Babylon to change who they are, but they resisted an increment of the sin. What do I say? Abosonsom na dem koduru hodom. Ba mo koduru hodom. They did not say the enya baby nti na enkoso ana enye. No.
Yeah, therefore we are live and we are streaming on Facebook, and we're also streaming on YouTube. The Asian one day, the book of Daniel and visions. We are discussing tying in the knots and also crossing our T's and dotting our I's. Chapter 1, and I draw some lessons in free, the book of Daniel. 3 lessons and a Bashadrak outline, which I pointed and timely. We need them today. Bonnie Dipa, and a home corner by and wasn't. Bashadrak, now make your point to be.
Yo, until the point I was making is like they realize even though you're terrible, you can't conquer them.
Yeah.
So we have Revelation chapter 2. Jesus captured the church at Ephesus said, remember where thou had fallen, and get up and repent and do your first things. So the point in say, Joe, so tissue bonimua, and you want to say there, Matthew, for example, walk a boy your mind, I can be the example kick. You must walk a boy your mind or him. And can say, I say the menya, Bemana, a minute and you may be, you know, and as he said there, minimi there, Menen Bacosoa added da Kusisa Mewo, because I throw menya. No, what I say, Joe. Yakopo counter first one say bonnet. Of course, when you have a on man, that there be American say no, say Yamu Maya, oh, who's so I bonnet. Or Quanyam pet now for a bear confession, because you said yes, Ubi Abu. So I knew more mecha. No, I knew there, no, about say, and you know, Maquia bonnet, my bonnet.
Was that the Koreasi?
Now. The way see a confessional, and I know my bonnet, my coffee fruit of Brian, one day. There be any fruit walk of fire in your one day. A German walkable, what was it? 80 cat bonino de way. Joe, so the point in the say, men can say my yes, I didn't in any young conqueror. And can say my Korea there, first day, I'm here and the ye, manu. But will be uncountry into no. Hey, I didn't so aboam you any free neck of the Miria. No, and Trambon in and to mountain time. Daniel Mukodru, then Tinamicasa, Daniel Mukodu Babylon. Omanka said, well, Aboson Sumna, a dear bedru baby Edri. Then see Abedu Eddie or Modi and be a bedi. What must say? Adebia Mukasa, a bed actually. Like they did not lose their identity. That's all I'm saying. 80 chapter 1, one thing you're going to see, people standing against any form of thing, Biana, ebe cover or more identity. How many Christians are standing up and say, we want to stand up for the Lord, we want to protect our identity as Christians? That's what we see in chapter 1.
So let's move on to chapter 2.
Like I said, Meko deep. Yeah. I mean, that's what we see in chapter 1.
In chapter 2, no lessons been after the context being the book at
let's chapter 2 nina and say God is going to bring his kingdom. It will come from heaven without anybody's help. Joe, so let me can crack the verse 36, you know. Daniel said, this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art king of kings, unto whom the God of heaven had given the kingdom, the power, and the strength, and the glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the birds of the heavens had he given into thy hand, and had made thee to rule over them, all that thou art the head of Thou art the head of the gold. 80. Daniel is giving the interpretation. He talks about all these things, and then he will come to a point where he's going to say, there's going to be a stone cast from heaven that will strike the image at its feet. You see that, Joe, in the verse 35.
45, right? 45.
Yes. So what people need to understand, and say, God was using Nebuchadnezzar's dream to kind of establish the fact, say, Joe, God is going to establish a kingdom. Right? In the verse 44 and 45, or see, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, nor shall the sovereignty thereof be left to another people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. Shannon, it shall consume all these kingdoms, and those kingdoms are all kind of one, where the Babylonians one, where the Medo-Persians one, the Grecian one, and the Romans. It's Joe. If Nassim will say it shall break into pieces, all these kingdoms are. The word these, the word these, a pronoun. What do I say? A pronoun. Now, Joe, every pronoun will be on there. Say there is what? The necessary antecedent. The nearest necessary antecedent. I want to put necessary there, even though we say the nearest antecedent, because Joe, all these kingdoms are all kind of question is there been all kind of use these a pronoun. Joe, in English kakra, pronoun is used to do what? To replace the noun. The noun in this passage, you say there are going to be 4 kingdoms, and a pronoun what you see say these kingdoms, God's kingdom is going to break them into pieces. Your question: what is God's kingdom? Book chapter 7 be country. You know also me country. Chapter 7 be country say when Jesus came from earth into heaven, when he went back, okoduru soro no, Onyankopon ma ni pinchen in verse 13 and verse 13 to 14, no, he was given a kingdom and a glory, and a power. When Jesus was on earth, he said, all power has been given unto me. Therefore, go into all the world and preach the gospel. And Daniel country in chapter 2 said, Daniel country chapter 2 said, these kingdoms, God's kingdom will break them into pieces, and the wind will blow them away. That's what chapter 2 is telling us, right? Now, Yenim said, when Jesus came on earth, of course, when you go upon the kingdom, man. But 14, he said, the kingdom was given to him to be given to nations. In fact, Revelation chapter 5, the verse 9 and 10 was it, and they sang a new song, saying, you are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain. And what? And you have used your blood to purchase us, to buy us for our God. And you have made us royal and priest. Yo, enti Bible no chere and say, yen na ye kingdom no. Question. Sa soro no e kingdom and as o mo be di Yesu achi the kingdom one. What did Daniel chapter 2 say in verse 44? Or see, it shall break into pieces all these kingdoms. Which means that by the time God's kingdoms come, no, whichever kingdom that will be existing as at that time ruling the entire world, what will happen to it? God's kingdom will break it into pieces. Why am I so stressing? Why am I stressing so much on this? I'm stressing so much on this, and they say a lot of people are saying, I think that there's going to be another kingdom ever started. Na no ba ansana Yesu ahenie no aba asase so na be breaki we no. Question: have we realized 4 kingdoms as we see in the book of Daniel? Yes. It is a realizing the Joe. And yet, kingdom for Frobi and it made Daniel a false prophet. Because Daniel prophesied about 4, and all the 4, no, Yabenya Babylonian, Yabenya Medo-Persia, Yabenya Grecian, and now, watch and said there's going to be the Roman. It's our catcher and said there's going to be another kingdom wherever I will rule the entire world. And sana yes to Diana Bar. And until I'm Crawford Church, say, yes to kingdom, Nanyede, am I? It is a yes to kingdom, no my idea. Next, I fail never bad action, which is a false teaching. The lesson we take from chapter 2 and say, God's kingdom was coming. And by the time we got to chapter 7, no, he told us that it was going to come in the days of the last kingdom. And as chapter 2, no, you said the kingdom of God came. Why? Because in Acts chapter 1, the pastor tells us, Jesus said, Yesu, and are you going to give the kingdom to Israel? Jesus said, there be name of the kingdom ninya ba. Mubaya one dance for every Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria. And I don't understand this. Mentias, yes, among for reading Acts chapter 2, Acts chapter 1, I can say, Jesus says a kingdom nearby, Mubaya one dance for every Jerusalem, Judea, Omukanya, no, all right. Yo, I'm preaching, I'm sorry, Mukase. For no preaching from Jerusalem, Echo Samaria, Echo all these places. There's still kingdom in Yamai, which automatically rubbish chapter 1, because chapter 1 say when the kingdom comes, you'll be witnesses of it from Jerusalem to Judea, from Judea to Samaria, from Samaria to where? To the uttermost part of the earth. And Joe, I want to bring people attention to this as we study the scriptures.
Okay, so let's move on to chapter 3. Chapter 3, we see Daniel's
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We do more kubuju. One lesson, and I'm making sure. And Crawford say, let it be known to the king. Say, even if our God does not come and deliver us, even in that situation, we will not bow to the image of the king. Nebuchadnezzar koye oni say Shadrach, Meshach, ne Abednego ni nuanom ne ewiasofo ni nyina obi ankoto sa ohoni no. Omso omonye. Joe, ma desua menye free ho de say, even if things become so hard, so difficult, now to me abrabonoa, do not give up on your God. Do not. Joe, the time of God is different from our time. It's when you were expecting, say, I deal with the SSC or Chinankwana and Sia. Men conclude say and see the Abrabo Abanawye. No. Joe, me a testimony to that. And I'll stand everywhere to testify, say, yes, soon Yamia or Etiasafo.
Yeah.
Now, one day, I will share that testimony to a lot of people. Say, Bibitoa, I'm an able farmer name. I will say, any Menjanya Mesom, Unyankopon him Eddie Hamo. Hey, Nadabio, say, Unyamia do Hamon, say, I can. Like it is a heaven, Pebiwana.
Now, Yamia do Hamodi and one a bit to me.
It's a one pound a bit my ball. What must I say? It shouldn't even cross our mind. Rather, no, we should see ourselves say our expectations, are not the same as God's expectations. Yo, only say Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. How do you case in one? At the time, almost honino, and come standing up for God, and I'm a one.
Yeah.
Last time I catch us a combetima koto to say the omu lazy or more empire.
Yeah.
Nanko omu de afa I to say akoto. They didn't pretend. They made it clear, emphatically clear, say they are not going to compromise in any way. Now, Joe, one thing I'm a person obi a wash added to the trim and say when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and you see more almost one year who are to Genumu. Debbie, Joe, ya chichire woman. And on here in the castle, more increase a jano, ano, a mufeja ebimum. Joe, all this space of time, they could have resented their decision.
Yeah.
They could have retracted, say, yeah, I can't say, yeah, they say the one year bring to Jano de Yabakoto, Memfa Nkumu. They didn't. Joe, you don't go to Jana, no. They didn't. Am I at to Omugu Jenimu? The point in the say, Ebiano officer Yanko Pomba Jomu, and tell one moment from Mujenum Derby, or Momu Koya could do Jenimu sometime. It is sometimes you have to enter your troubles. You have to enter the problem. No, in the problem, no, Yanko Pomba glorify himself in your life.
Yeah.
Now, so who want to mean stand up for him? Want to mean enough for him there? Joe, then there's a big problem. Why then should he also stand for you? There are a lot of people who have given up on their God. If my jar, sorry, if my jar Christosom, if my cross or when you say Yamibi air day.
Oh,
me can't say, Joe, there is a huge thing that we need to note. Chapter 4. Nebuchadnezzar.
So answer number chapter 4. So the thrust of what you are telling us is that we shouldn't compromise, despite the
pains and the troubles
and the troubles. We shouldn't compromise our faith. We should stand by our faith, and even if it fails us, the world, in the sense that the area in this life, it will still wind up as being good. Yes, as Romans 8:28 canon say, we know that we know that all those who love the Lord, all things work together for good for them, and that is some assurance I will say a Christopher say bit major mudium na concording. So let's shift to chapter 4, where chapter 4 we come across Nebuchadnezzar's second vision. With a huge tree where the birds of the air and the beasts of the land were benefiting. But all of a sudden there was a shout to cut the tree down, chop it down, but leaving the roots or the stumps in there intact. A bit must back. I mean, what lesson can we learn from there?
The lesson I was chapter 4 no but back pen and person me point out. And it said, you will know that the Lord God rules
in the kingdom
of the affairs or in the kingdoms of men.
See that? Maybe let him say that statement, it's sort of summarized in the book of Esther.
Yeah.
Esther demonstrates powerfully that, I mean, despite how we plan on things and how we might think that God can still use these things for his own good. And it's also demonstrated in the life of Joseph. How the people meant it. Then he, looking back, I'm thinking that Joseph cast his mind back on how he has suffered, being ripped off his father at a young age, sent to captivity as a slave, being there with them for a long time. But he looked back at all things that has happened and will conclude that, well, you meant it for bad or you meant it for harm, but God meant it for good. And it didn't work out the way he himself had thought of it. Maybe he thought of it, say, he might be in a university, big time university, graduating from his first class and things, having a glamorous vocation, filling up. But no, he has to work out being as a slave, work out, place him there.
He has to be that child for the people to worship.
Yes, for the right time to get for his own brothers to bow to in fulfillment of the vision or the dream that he himself had, which he even told them. This is the dream I've had. But he has to go through all those channels for this thing to happen. And I think that is it.
You better read verse 17, mommy.
Of Daniel
chapter 4, verse 17. Because in chapter 4, verse 17, there's a statement there. My name said the version is Sikano.
The
B pattern also saying.
This matter is by the decree of the watcher, and the demand is by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it
to the intent, the intention. Nyankopon dia obeye on chapter 4 ni nyina a obema Nebukadnezar obeye aboa anaso obeye tisa aboa no. With one intention, that the living nipa tiasase so no will know that the God of heaven rules in the affairs of men. Asam na say Onyankopon on the di asase so to me. 80 she said Nebuchadnezzar better than Abuano. For how long? 7 years.
7 years.
Now 7 years into one and that kingdom. So one better than him. Nobody touches throne. No. In fact, in the saying of Daniel 4, no, Nyagopoka say, "Which biano ne beka ni kuntun siri no." Monfa that the ancient na momo ba momo bia ma ema ho. In other words, Nebuchadnezzar frekonwan so a for God to let people know say I am in charge. If you don't know, I rule in the affairs of men. No, 7 years. Now, ohene anane abo nwuram. Ewe enema enkoyi. Na so no na hinie da so ye dey. It's what train. It tells you, say, Onyankopon time is the time. What they obey be at the end of the day, his time is supreme.
Yeah, let's go to chapter 5.
Chapter 5. Simply put, stupidity has a big price. Stupidity has a big price.
Well, I look at chapter 5. Mr. John say, those who refuse to learn from history is forced to repeat his mistakes.
Someone I'm no stupidity no. Yo, papa, nana dani aboa. Ejo pa chere unto ba kingdom no want that. Yemfa say satan mo dani aboa na yenwo no kra. Which is not possible. It's like to see a woman. Young man's no yakwala. Don't want to ye say, I hear now what better as a cunya, Debian Okwas antiphone muna, Joe Papa or Henny. And then Omuka, Obetracunyana, so then they catch it all. You can't a Kunyano one time.
I want some, yes, you better count some near Hawaii natural.
Actual 80 Belshazzar, no name say. Say, Nena Nebuchadnezzar, ever tracunya is your man than Abua.
Yeah, yes, I will.
And the manner, and I say, the God not done in Abuano. It's the same God now who copan and chancing Selbenum.
And your the certain said your grandfather knew better. Ono your china so no one fa Yakupon crew no keep no safe there in his but who buy no with all your guests and your braggadocio. What me order say Yɛmfa kuru anamba. Osa no mu nso a ose yi Nyankopɔn hi by telling Ushira Kobri Nyame, Jute Nyame, Abo Nyame, Vie Nyame, Yama we.
Abosonsom. And then Monfan Chems and make way. Abosonsum and Quasiasem. Joe and Quasiasemo. Okay, Isaiah can't send be. I don't know, is it Isaiah chapter 5? Isaiah say, Onipa kofedua, everyone kofedua. Na wabetena ho atwitwa dua no de aye table atena ho no de atena aye chair no de aye mpa no adas na de aka egu fom no or de asoja no de atoto pan no edi osoja ni wi a eja na aka na egu fom no de design ohoni se osom no aka nche ohoni na we design say hey wo na obo am mam kotwa eja ye o wo na obo am mam didi ye o wo na ni wura fi se edua no okoto na okasa akire no ono na kotwa firi nwura mba na se edua no wa hoden a bo nipa enkobe mo betwa na ba efie abosonson yankwase asem eti wo mo de wo mo ho ahya abosonson mu enyina na mete ase say there is a supreme God far lifted above these abosom abo any mojetwa ne ensuo any mepo there be the God of heaven is above it is ampase se ugu nsan na obeka se twedi ampon nyankopon a ena bete ase se twedi ampon nyankopon so kye ensuo ne abosom na awokotokoto wo no eni dia ye de ma abosom eni dia de ma ensuo eni dia de ma emepo no ti akoto sare wo no saa ni dia na de ma onyankopon wo soro ne asase no etijo se utie papa ya asem at the end of the day no onyankopon say mene
you fasten.
Plaka you fasten. Anajui okwasi abeji udwan. What I say? Ampa ye credit.
Yeah.
You know, mummy emetiase say onyankopon nim no. Anytime bia onipa ebeba so low so obesum abode ebia no onyankopon hu sese bo ye kwase because he cannot comprehend why you should allow Joe ebia ye kan abebo na manfo anwa ayom se me na medi atem Romans chapter 1 but you name hwe kakra bi Romans chapter 1
Romans 1
verse 18 no saying
Bashadak, I think say ye be Romans 1 na ye kai say ye brand call, but we are going through the lesson, so it's best here we end in chapter 5 here. Then in the next section we can continue from 6 onwards.
Yes,
close to 12 now. Romans 1 say
Romans 1 verse 18 also saying
verse 18 or say for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all the ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has showed it to them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imagination, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and they changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into the image of the man, image made like the corruptible man, and the birds, and the four-footed beasts, and the creeping things. Wherefore,
Paul said, "Woman, you Yankopon so exist you, and then I make a choice of Mom Gunsano. I almost can't trade upon. On some friend also Yankopon.
Yeah,
it's almost in
your children say, Mounsa.
Aye. Woman, and him say Yankopon. Paul say in verse 21, because that knowing God, they glorify him not as God, neither gave thanks, but became vain in
their
their
imagination.
reasoning, in their thinking. No, push baby, and their senseless heart was darkened. Verse 22. Any 22 BC or say, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So, now, but verse 23 say, and change the glory of the incorruptible God for the likeness of an image of a corruptible man, and an image of birds and beast. Eti enipa e design Mary. Nobody aso. Eye Mary no Mary no design na body aso. No okoto sorry no. Enipa design eye ne sofo sticker.
No, they are about
No, they are about down no okoto sorry no. And I know me and who news Ghana web. So mo boa me so boa. Say obi aton kosua, den kosua no. Kosua ye nim said the color city no. Ono no the hu nyina red. And na ye de adum che dua stickers abobo kosua no na ye ton. Red ni kire say ye de kosua na nu Yesu mogam. Yo, yes. That is what Paul is describing here. Say, we get to that point. This is what he said. He said, and wherefore God gave them up in the lust of their heart unto uncleanness, that their bodies should be dishonored among themselves. Tell them, go say, Baba. Joe, chapter 5, lesson I want to say that one sumo nyankopon na say what the enidia mu nyankopon be ma abosom enunua. Joe, at the end of time, no, you will pay a heavy price.
Yeah.
I want to entreat ye nanum mo hwe ye ni adofo no na say. Entra sorry bi mu keke nya wadwen say, oh, aha wo de we nyamesum ni eno ano no nyamesum de no ano wakuma nya no kre. Onyankopon pese ye som no kre. Honhom ne no kre mu. In John chapter 4, the verse 23 and 24. Etirehwe ye na wa ma obere bi ase de open no. Onyame wo no kre o Bible mu opese ye nsua na come to the knowledge of the truth and serve him that way. So one go by that. Yo, niema wo be exhibit no ebe ya bosonsom ade. Niema wo be exhibit na ya ni dia wo be ma nipa. Dia osofo kan ye, dia enkrofobia so do bi mu adi kan ye. En na obedi akiri. And Ellen Jane White can say, and I want can say, and also we can say, na men South Africa can say, yo, wabera Bible no daho. Question is, what does the Bible also say? That was our name. So, one yes, I did not. You will be like this man who was beheaded at the end of the eternity. And need the arm from Munyanko Ponti. Ebi out there, second me to minimum. Ebi out there, young, but you at the end of time, no. Ube jina onyankopon anim. Da bi ube jina onyankopon, da bi ube hu onwuma. Da bi ube yi wabrabo ano. Na anu ye no. Ebe yesen.
But that's it. Someday you see, Sunday you stand on the bar on high. Someday your records you see. Someday you answer the questions of life. The question is, what will your answer be? Chapter 5 reminds me that God has a standard. Daniel told Belshazzar by explaining to him that you have been weighed on God's scales. Nyankopon will scale, a balance, a weighing scale if you want. Now, nipa bi ani weight also weigh. Nti o say o nipa si wa was standard that was nipa ni duru so. But the Belshazzar sees one na fi o form pa na ho de ni mudru no. And that caused Belshazzar his life.
You the question is Adas asenu Yesu be free soro appear. Na se yefre wo ne me se ye we base onyankopon asem. Ye onyankopon asem wo se yenye no ti a. Ne ade wo so de wo ye si ha no mo a. balance never cause it.
Balance any day. Which one we? Which one we? And that is and not even in the book of Daniel do we see this picture.
Yes,
I really see also we see that in the book of Revelation as well, where Daniel, in I think Revelation chapter 10 or 11, 11 rather, it's the Revelation chapter 11, where Daniel, who say, would be a dimidika oko.
John
Who say, would be dimidika oko. Na ukura demri, a rod,
a measuring rod.
Measuring rod, look to be. In our context, you might say a measuring tape if you want. Na ode kwa no all kind of things na bi catch and say wura o kwa susu nyankopon aso dan no na measure baby a wo sore ho sankofo no baby o mo sore ni wo mo sore measure wo mo but leave the court of the Gentiles for the mama move for they will trample. You don't want to measure, but measure God's people whether really they add up, whether they measure up to God's standard.
And what are some water? And
then that was truly faith building lesson. Said
yes, sir.
If we really measure us, where will we stand? And that should remind us, and it will be already in BSA. The book of Daniel have faith building lessons for us as well. I don't know, that's a best share. We might do another section, maybe see God will next week. We might do another lesson to also another week to tie up on some of these things. Look at even some false teachings that are being taught from the book of Daniel, tie some knots on it, and really close the book of Daniel. It has been an exciting study, I must say, and I believe so. We already in Indiana will attest to that fact that they have been insightful, exciting, and very educative study. Get Cinemicai at the beginning, get a copy of the book, the Bible, hard copy, not the soft copy. You can download some from App Store and stuff. But get a hard copy. Go to your library, maybe at your own bookshop, and get yourself a good translation of the Bible and read the text for yourself. As you can see, make notes in there. I don't know me. A best share be Jonathan Mensa Bonsu. Bye bye.